Welcome today. I'm very excited about this event. Megan, Shanae, and I have been working diligently with Misty and with the panelists for the last couple of weeks to get this put together. We hope that you really enjoy this session. The presenter today and moderator for the panel is Misty Burmeister. She's one of the most down-to-earth people you're going to meet. And she's a best-selling author as well as an entrepreneur, an innovator, and a TEDx speaker. Her groundbreaking work has armed such leadership teams as Johns Hopkins and Johnson & Johnson, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the United States Navy with best practices for leading diverse teams through change. I consider myself very, very fortunate to have met Misty when she facilitated a discussion on difficult conversations at an executive roundtable group that I attend. Her energy and her passion and her willingness to engage and challenge and her selfless commitment to the success of others are truly what makes her remarkable. Misty, I'm so glad that we have you here. She's going to bring her energy and passion to engage us and challenge us as we explore the meaning of allyship and discover the power we all have to create a more inclusive environment. Misty, welcome.
Wow, thanks so much, Devin. What a pleasure it is to be here with everyone. I want to give a special shout out to NEPC. A week of understanding, but really a lifetime of learning and growing, connecting and supporting people from all different walks of life, and especially to those who come from marginalized groups. To get us started today, I want to ask everybody to get fully present and ready for a very engaged conversation, a very engaging. I'm going to be asking you guys to get into the chat box and answer some questions. It's full on. So put everything away that you're working on and get ready, strap in. It's going to be some fun. We're going to have a lot of fun here today, but we need your full engagement in order for it to be as fun as it could be and to get as much out of it as we possibly can. So without further ado, and I did again want to say just how thankful I am to have the opportunity to work with some of the coolest people on the planet. Each one of the panelists that we're about ready to learn from, and each and every one of the people who have put weeks, not just the last couple of weeks, but weeks into this, truly inspiring. So our time together today, we have 1 hour, which is part of the reason why I'm going to be speaking quickly, because we have a lot of great stuff to cover. Here is what we are covering. We're going to talk about, like, what is allyship? And then what is privilege? Why does it even matter? And then I'm going to share a tactical tool, a strategy that you can employ quickly and and also slowly, both quickly and slowly, that'll make you more effective in your allyship efforts. And then again, we're going to transition into a panel discussion where we're going to get into some real stories of allyship, and perhaps even some where it didn't work out as well as maybe we would love for allyship to work out. So we're going to get into all the different components. Get ready for a real conversation. Speaking of, let's jump right now into the chat box. Now, I have got, thankfully, Shanae here to help with this because I can't see the chat box, but y'all can. What is allyship? In the chat box, what is it? Shanae, what are they saying? What do you got?
It's crickets right now, but I think they're typing.
They must be typing. So as you guys are thinking about allyship, go ahead, Shanae.
Oh, I have a couple. I have no clue. Support from Bill, solidarity from Aaron, advocacy, sponsorship and more from Abby, partnership from Ree, allyship is using your strengths to support others from Courtney, and they're coming. They're coming.
They are. Standing with marginalized groups to help others hear their voice. I hear you, Alex, absolutely. Sponsorship, Linda, I hear you. I just got easy access to it too. So did you catch any of the other ones, Shanae?
Yes, boosting others' voices from Leah, playing on strengths from Mike McDonald, ensuring fair and equal treatment from John Shanklin, standing together from Appy, standing up for and supporting marginalized groups from Lori. Yeah, we got a lot of different definitions.
All of them make a lot of sense, and I couldn't agree more. My definition of allyship is using our privileges to help people of marginalized groups to advance. Now, there's a word that I just threw in there, and that's privilege. Another word that can quickly just sort of grab hold of us. So let's dig into it. What is privilege? Back into the chat box.
Crickets now, but they're coming. Advantage from Devin, access from Mike McDonald, an unearned advantage from Kim, an unfair advantage from Leah. Are the advantages that you have that society gives you without doing anything? That's from Courtney. Thank you.
Very good, Courtney. I love that. Very well done.
Exclusive opportunities from Abby. Advantages based on race, sex, religion, etc. from John.
Abby, I gotta agree with you. Exclusive opportunities, I'm with you. Keep going, please.
Taking for granted things that are often denied to others from Sam. Being born into an advantage without not willingly knowing it from Lena. Economic status from Rob. Immunity in a sense from DeAnthony. Special advantage or entitlement from Emma. An advantage based on factors that you can't control that you may not even be aware that you have from Appy.
Sam, I see you also taking for granted things that are often denied to others. We're going to pause there. These are so powerful. And many of them, I think, really hit the mark. We're going to talk about this more. I want to talk about what it is not for just a moment. And then I'm going to ask you guys to begin to think and to add into the chat box, what are some of your privileges? So think about that for a moment. So what it is not saying that you have not had challenges in your life. It is not saying that, and that is in your area of privilege, that you have not worked hard to get to where you are. That is definitely not what privilege is, but rather what many of you had to already say, it's about the areas of our lives and the experiences that we have special advantages because we are that sex, because we are that ethnicity, because we have that, in some cases, that tone or way of speaking that people can understand better or perceive to be better. And in some cases, it's even our athletic structure or our physical structure where we have more of an advantage. So there's many different ways to look at privilege. In the current landscape of this word, it's often being used as pretty much people are talking about it from a white privilege perspective. But really, privilege is not just about white privilege. It's really about the privileges that we all have and using our privileges to help other people to grow and to advance is really what allyship is all about. And allyship, of course, contributes greatly to diversity and inclusion efforts, which we're going to talk more about in just a moment. For now, I want to jump back into the chat box with this. What are some of your privileges? Based on the definition that we just talked about, what are some of your privileges?
Able-bodied,
Yes.
Leah. Citizenship, Megan.
How about you, Shanae? What are some of your privileges?
What are some of my privileges? I think that one of my privileges is I get to work from home. Everyone can't do that in this environment.
Yeah, to be able to work from home, that is a privilege. I think also probably your title is a little bit of a privilege.
Yes.
Awesome. So I see education, that is a huge one. Born a human, absolutely. Let's see here, help me out here, Shanae.
Having both parents is one. Education, healthcare from Dan Travers, access to healthcare from Allie, English as a first language from Leah, being a Christian in a predominantly Christian society.
Yes.
Family support from John, not perceived to be a threat to police from Stacy, gender and wealth and education from Rob.
These are all so very, very powerful. And in fact, As we go through this presentation, one of the things that I'm going to be welcoming you into is some specific ideas and strategies on how you can increase your how do I say this, to step into your allyship efforts more and more. To do that, gaining greater access and understanding and awareness around your privileges gives tremendous insight into where you can use those privileges. So beautifully done. We're gonna rock into the next part of this, which is, why is allyship important? And we're doing great on time. We're gonna do this one at rapid fire. Why? Because at the end of the day, you guys, we're talking about difficult conversations. How do we support somebody from a marginalized background, be it hearing somebody say something negative about them, or just seeing somebody they could do more with their career if they just would put their name in the hat. No matter how you look at it, it requires a little bit of discomfort inside. And with that level of discomfort, we have to have a pretty compelling reason for that. So tell me, why do you guys think it's important? Why is allyship important to you? Why did you come here today?
Strength in numbers. Thanks, Sean.
Yes, as an inclusion and human rights.
To create an equitable community, Abby, with great power, and even if you didn't earn it, comes great responsibility to your fellow humans to make it better.
Love that. To help, yes.
Want to learn how to be a better ally to more people, Alex.
Giving a voice to those who don't have one. Thank you, Linda.
The world isn't fair and equitable to everyone, but we can try to make it more so. Amanda, thanks.
Hold myself accountable and others around me accountable. It's so powerful, Taylor. And I think one of the most incredibly challenging things that there is to do in life is to hold myself and others accountable to what's right. And we're gonna stop with that for now and move into the next aspect of this. Allyship is important for all the reasons that you guys just named and so many more. Here's another reason why allyship is important. As we mentioned just a minute ago, allyship contributes greatly to diversity and inclusion. And we know that companies who focus on diversity and inclusion efforts are apt to perform 33% better financially than companies that do not. They get the privilege of a 24% higher revenue. And this is the lower numbers. It's actually even greater than that in some of the other ones. So really, at the end of the day, what we're talking about, why is it important? Because I like to point right at elephants in rooms. Many times people will say, well, if I focus my time on helping them, then I won't get something. And the truth is, and the reality of the research shows, is actually the more that you focus on helping others, especially in the area of diversity and inclusion, especially in the area of marginalized groups, you grow the pie. When we increase opportunities for marginalized groups, we increase opportunities for everyone. I'm going to say it one more time. When we increase opportunities for marginalized groups, we increase opportunities for everyone, including ourselves, the opportunity to get closer to and know ourselves. So there
Misty,
are two, yes.
Just want to give you a heads up. We're going to bring the panel in just a few minutes.
How many minutes?
4.
Okay, so we are at 2:16, and we are planning to have the panel come in at 2:30. So we are set for right now we've got another 10 minutes roughly. Thank you so much. So bounce in again at about 20, when it is 2:25.
Will do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. 2 different types of allyship. We have proactive and we have reactive. It's important to identify these 2 different types. And it's not like there's one that's better or more right. It really is, it is our opportunity to ask ourselves, where does it make the most sense for me to spend my time? So proactive, you see somebody who clearly, I mentioned this a minute ago, who clearly has this talent and the skills to put their name in for the job, but just isn't. And maybe that is a woman, and maybe that is somebody who is transgendered, or maybe that is somebody from a marginalized group. And so you seek to get to know them. And we're going to talk more about that in just a minute, like how to do that. And as a result, you're serving as an ally. So that's proactive. Reactive allyship is you see something go down that's not okay. What do you do? Or you personally experience a bit of a challenge from somebody else around allyship. And I'm actually going to get into that for just a moment. And back in May, it was a Monday morning in May 2020, when I received an email from a woman whose name is Jennifer. I had started working with Jennifer on branding maybe about 5 months before. So back in January of 2020, I had paid her to help me understand how my story fits into why I do the work that I do. So she had a good sense of me. Like, she knew that I grew up for a portion of my childhood as the only white family in an all African-American community, and some other things about me. She had a sense of who I was. So when I received this email from her, I had to take a good pause. And here's what the email said. It said, "Misty, you're either for me or you're against me. Your silence is violence. If you don't speak up, I won't work with you anymore." Now, you guys can probably imagine, you probably would have had a similar thought, like, oh my God, what should I have said? What should I have done differently? Have I not spoken up right quickly enough? All those thoughts went through my head as I slowly backed away from my phone and I put it down, which lasted for about 30 seconds before I picked it back up and messaged a colleague of mine and said, basically, am I a good person? Yes, Misty, you're a good person. This person's having a rough day. Which was very helpful to me, and it allowed me to sort of not take it personally. And I think in these sort of situations, that's one of the hardest things to do, but I'm getting ready to offer you a strategy for how to deal with that. And so I put the phone down, I walked away, and several hours later, I popped her an email, which basically said, "It sounds like you're having a rough go at it. If you'd like to talk about this, I would be happy to." She immediately responded. And so we set up the appointment for the very next day. Now, I'm going to tell you, in that moment, I was like, what do I need to do so that I can learn? I had already gone through hours of understanding myself better based on my reaction to that email. Now it was time to understand Jennifer and her experience, to understand why there was the reactivity there, why that was coming across this way. And so I leaned into one of the greatest skills you'll ever use when it comes to allyship, and that is cultivating your curiosity. I got really curious, not only about myself, I mentioned that, I needed to understand where was that coming from, the reaction from me. But equally important, I wanted to understand where she was coming from. So I put all my stuff on the back burner and just really asked her a lot of questions. And here's what I learned. Just a few days before, the police had been in her neighborhood. She has 3 African-American children and she was terrified for their lives. In her mind, it wasn't going to be very long before history repeats itself and that she was going to be brutalized, her and her whole family. Let me tell you the level of compassion that rose up inside of me, and the level of connection to humanity, the empathy that was available to me once I started to get curious. So as you are thrust into experiences that are incredibly challenging around, or not even just incredibly challenging, but just a little bit challenging, I want to welcome you into asking more questions, learning more about what's going on for me really right now, and then what's really going on for them. Asking them, how come you're not putting your name in the hat? Asking them, is everything okay for you? It doesn't seem like it is. These are excellent ways to create connection and support within your organization. So the number one tool, I'll say it again, is to cultivate your curiosity, to lean in and ask some questions, to learn about the people within your organization, particularly those who come from marginalized groups. Some of the ways that you can do that is to make note, as I mentioned, of some of your privileges. Now, these slides are going to be available to everybody as soon as we're done, so you can take notes and it'll be available to you. So make note of some of your privileges. oh my gosh, do I welcome you into considering how you might use your privilege to help someone from a marginalized group advance. Now here's the key here. The focus is not just on helping somebody else, but also about connecting with them. We all like to be supported by people who care about us and who get to know us. All right, so learn about the background or story of somebody from a marginalized group, sort of the same thing, I guess, as the one before. You're learning about them, but you're actually hearing their story and their background, and you're sharing your own. Through stories and through those sorts of connections, everything is possible, including helping them to grow. How much time do we have? Real quick story. Real quick, just 3 years ago, I was serving as a mentor through the Washington Business Journal. And I met this woman, her name's Agnes, beautiful woman. 3 years later, I did a little bit of mentoring with her. 3 years later, she was in again, and I had a chance to, she was in again this time to mentor, and to be a mentor, and I had the opportunity to reconnect with her. And it turns out that she actually started a nonprofit. Well, I was excited for her, and I started making some introductions for her to people who have experience in that area. Each time I made a connection, I saw how she'd communicate with them, which she used a lot of, now she's nearing 40, or excuse me, nearing 50. She was using a lot of Mr., Miss, and Sir, and a lot of very polite language, which she probably, bless her, grew up with. It's some of the best kind of lessons to grow up with, to be frank. And as you get further along in the career, one of the lessons I received growing up inside my career was to drop that. You're peer to peer with people. And so I called her. It took me quite a bit of effort to do this. She's an African-American woman. She's running a really great nonprofit, and I just decided to give it a chance. And I got to tell you guys, what she said to me blew me away. My mother has been trying to get me to drop that for years now. And then she said this, you know, it makes me feel sick every time I do it. She just needed some support to see that that probably wasn't serving her anymore. It definitely did, and it's just not anymore. So learn about the background, and she knows a bit about my background, which really kind of is part of how I got the privilege to offer that to her. And it's not about me being better or anybody being better, but about connecting. So share your background and your story, which is what I just said. And then pause when you see discrimination and ask a question. It's not about being combative, but rather about exposing the toxic words and our behavior. Saying, ooh, that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Rich Sheraton, CEO and co-founder of a company in Ann Arbor, Michigan, Menlo Innovations, one of the things he does when he's in the middle of a meeting and somebody says something that's just a little off is he literally goes, ooh, it makes me a little uncomfortable. That all by itself is transformational. You're exposing a toxic word or behavior. But remember to lean into your curiosity and also to educate yourself and seek feedback, to educate yourself more on allyship, on privilege. At the end of this our time together, we are going to be providing you with more resources that, not more as in giant amount because it can become overwhelming, but I put together a really kind of a short list of resources that are deep in their education for you guys. So, and then seek feedback. We've got a list of questions for you there as well to ask the folks who are from marginalized backgrounds. Is there anything that I could be doing differently that could help you? You know, asking them some of the questions that will help you to help them. All right, so what did we talk about today already? We've talked about allyship and privilege. You guys have tremendous awareness and depth of knowledge around both of those, especially now. Why it matters, because we're increasing the pie for everyone. As NEPC continues to grow, so will diversity. The people who are from marginalized groups will continue to grow, and so will their leadership positions and the company's bottom line, and then therefore lots more opportunities. Cultivate your curiosity, ask more questions, lean in about yourself as well as about them. And now we are going to transition into the panel discussion. I'm so very excited about it. Let's rock. All right. Here we are. You guys throw into the chat box for me for right now for just a couple minutes as we get this going. Do me a favor and just put into the chat box, what are some of the things you've already got from being here today? What are some of the things that you've already gained from your time and investment here? Shanae, I'm going to look to you for support.
Okay.
As we begin to get started. To ask questions. Thank you, Kristen. I see you.
Clarity from Appy, just more clarity.
Beautiful. Thank you, Appy. And thank you so much, Linda. Ask more questions and be curious. Any more that come up, please go ahead and read them.
Curiosity is key. Thanks, Devin.
Is key. All right, we're going to transition now into this panel discussion. I think it's going to be the heart of our program here today. I'm so very excited to be here with Neil and Brian and Kim. I'm going to just read a little bit about each one of them so that we all are on the same page about what makes these people so amazing and why they've been chosen. Though honestly, what makes these people so amazing is so much more than what I'm going to be able to read right now. They are truly extraordinary in so many ways. The way that they've leaned into these conversations and stepped up is, I've been doing this work for almost 20 years now, and these three people have really inspired me greatly. So after 15 years at NEPC, Kim Kaiser refers to herself as an NEPC lifer. She is a senior consulting analyst on the public funds team. She resides in Detroit, Michigan, and co-leads the Black Employee Resource Group with James Fenton. Thanks so much for being here, Kim. Neil Sheath is a partner and director of global research. She is based in Boston, Massachusetts, but travels extensively in normal times, of course, to conduct due diligence on alternative investment strategies based in Europe and Asia. Neil also serves on several of the firm's internal committees, including the executive committee and diversity. All right, and then we have Brian Parnell, who recently celebrated his 3-year anniversary with NEPC. He's a senior manager on the discretionary operations team. He is based in Boston and has been a champion for the Cultural Enrichment Group since it was created just a few years ago. Truly an inspiration, all three of them. And I want to just jump right in to some questions that I have. Actually, my very first question for each one of you is a little bit different than we originally talked about. So get ready. Brian, you're up first. So since we started this sort of planning, I wonder if what you've learned or what you've discovered about allyship, about diversity and inclusion as a result of even just the preparations.
The biggest thing that was really eye-opening for me so far was when you first came to me with the term white privilege. And I think my first reaction was, well, that doesn't apply to me. And you know, I think of growing up, and I was like, you know, my parents didn't live in a big house. You know, they you know, did whatever they could to make ends meet. And you know, in the last couple of weeks, the more I've researched that, it's not even remotely, you know, the way I think today. And it's, you know, to think that, you know, just because my parents didn't have a lot of money, that, you know, I still work hard for the things I've got. It's just, you know, I've learned it's a flawed way of thinking, and I can do better than to think like that. You know, my background has never been an obstacle to me getting anything. Now, granted, I work hard, but, you know, the starting point was different for me than it is for other marginalized groups. And, you know, I've done a lot of kind of searching to my history and looking at where I am. And, you know, I've really rethought that term, that, you know, I am more privileged than I probably thought I was. And just because I work hard, you know, it's not the same. It's not an accurate statement. So that's been something that, you know, I'm going to continue to spend time thinking about it and hopefully work with others to learn more about it.
So I think what I heard you say, so it's so powerful, Brian. I think it is, the idea originally for you was like, this doesn't apply to me. I had to work hard to get to where I am. And then you did some research, and almost like a sucker punch to the stomach for you. Tell me a little bit more about that.
You know, I think, you know, at first it was, you know, using the example of, you know, getting into college. I went to Boston College, and I thought I worked so hard growing up to get into that college. And I just happened to go to a school that was public, but it was actually named an academy and people thought it was private. So, you know, for me, I tend to be defensive about it. You know, I worked hard and, you know, all the homework and all the things I did to get the opportunity to go to that college. And then the more I've looked into it, you know, a lot of people didn't even have the opportunity to work hard. That's the difference. Their starting point was much further behind than mine. And you know, some of it can be, you know, so what do I do next? Do I feel guilty or ashamed that, you know, this is where I'm at and that was my background, and other people had it different or harder. So for me, it's, you know, I need to continue to understand others. You know, we're at the point we're at now, and what I can do is kind of give back. Like now it's time for me, and that's what I've been doing since, you know, I got to NEBC and trying to look for ways to be more effective at it. But you know, moving beyond kind of how we got to where we are and doing, you know, what can I do to change the approach and to help others now that, you know, I've come to grips with what it means to be white privilege or not, and you know, how can I help other people?
So incredibly powerful. I'm going to say this one more time. A lot of people don't even have the opportunity to work hard. That pops out. And you had the opportunity to work hard as a white man.
Yep.
But you know, something else that you said in our conversations that led up, you've got 3 boys. And if I remember right, you sort of intentionally raised them in an environment where they would have some cultural diversity so that they could be further along as it pertains to this conversation around allyship and diversity. But when things went down around George Floyd and everything else that has come out of that experience, you realize that you really didn't have every sort of box checked in that way. And it's been challenging for you.
Yeah, that was tough. And I've been reflecting on it a lot recently. You know, we picked a town for my kids to grow up in, you know, Framingham, Massachusetts, for those of you that know it. And if you don't, it's very diverse. And a couple of years ago, we were at a birthday party holding a birthday party for my middle son, who was, I think 10 at the time. And I remember looking around saying, you know, his 4 closest friends to him, or him and his 3 other friends, the 4 group, you know, one was Black, one was Asian, one's family's from India. And I remember thinking, all right, we've done it. Like, my sons are being raised in this atmosphere, and they are getting exposure to diversity, you know, racial diversity, cultural diversity. And I remember thinking, I'm doing enough. And then everything, as you said, you know, went down over the last year, and they started coming to me with questions. So I, you know, throughout this process, you know, of raising them, I just thought immersing them in a diverse town was enough, but I wasn't necessarily having proactive conversations with them. So then over the last year, they come to me and I realized they don't have the vocabulary. They are listening to things on TV and social media that, because, you know, I never necessarily sat down and said, you know, and talked about things like this. It was just, you go to school with lots of different types of kids and it's great, and you're on soccer teams with them and ski teams and all these different things. But you know, I was never having those proactive conversations. So, you know, the last year has been a lot of growing up for them. And I've found that I don't always have the vocabulary to have those conversations, and I try, but, you know, they're 3 sons, and they're all different ages. So it's all different, you know, terms I try to use. And, you know, the best part about it, when I go back to white privilege, I am raising 3 white males. So I have an opportunity to make an impact through them as well. The next generation of my last name are people that I can help mold into, you know, hopefully being allies for their friends and their friends' families.
So incredibly powerful. I love hearing the struggle that you're deciding to engage in around this concept. It's not easy. And there's, as you mentioned many times, a lot of blind spots that you just don't see, and you're actively searching them out. Thank you so much, Brian. We're going to transition over to Kim next. I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of the things that you've learned just in the process to getting to where we are right now.
So I hope you can hear me. I've had some audio issues, so long as, all right, great. So, number one, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on the panel. I was, I'm very humbled to be able to have this opportunity to speak to my NEPC family. I appreciate, Brian, hearing you talk about your boys and how you put them in this wonderful little multicultural,
Oh, we lost you.
Oops, we lost your boy. We lost your. We can't hear you. We can't hear. We can't hear you. We're gonna switch over for just a moment to Neil and let Kim figure out her. You might need to shoot directly from your computer. If you don't mind going in the background to help her out, Devin, that would be great. Neil, we're gonna switch over to you. And again, just the question is kind of, what have you discovered already that you've learned as a result of our time together in preparation for this panel?
Sure. So thanks. I've learned a few things. One of the things that I've learned that Kim told me at our last session is, as somebody who grew up in a mixed race environment and experienced things both in one case, my father's Indian in the US and in India, and my mother is Irish Catholic from the US. In the US, is that, Kim mentioned to me, hey, Neil, because I was saying I often come across, or people perceive me as one race in the US, which is a white male. And I said, and that actually drives me crazy, from my name to like how I was brought up. And Kim says to me, listen, I don't perceive you that way. If anybody knows you, you don't come across that way, and I have to be careful in what I would say to you versus other people. And so one is
an example of what she gave. I remember that part of the conversation. She said, I wouldn't say X, Y, and Z to you. I don't know if that's appropriate to share, but if it is, let's share it.
Go ahead, Kim.
Come on.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. No, I'm Neil, you're not supposed to put me on the spot like that. No, I was saying to Neil, I'm like, I don't see you like that. I'm like, when I met Neil, I remember thinking, this isn't a white guy, but okay, but Neil, I'm not going to say that. I'm not repeating what I said. I'm not going to repeat what I said. Just suffice it to say that I express my stereotype of white men, and I live in a suburb. My ex-husband was white. My family's pretty diverse. But at the end of the day, I'm a Black girl from Detroit. And I was saying to the boys about how the men, about everyone's perception of Detroit. It's like, there's, gangs and there's violence on every corner and all this business. But just to suffice it to say, Neil, you're taking me there. So yeah, so I didn't see you like that at all, Neil, not at all.
Well, thank you, Kim. So what I've learned,
hoodlum, Neil, she doesn't see you as a hoodlum, I think is what she's saying. She wouldn't speak to you that way because she doesn't see you that way, man. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands, by the way. I just think I'm being cool, apparently. It's a white girl cool, right? Go ahead, Neil.
but I would say what I've also learned from being at an EPC, which is I think one of our strongest attributes, is the firm's culture. And we say, what is culture? And literally there's people at our firm, individuals from our firm from all different backgrounds and walks of life. And I would say generally, and it's improved over time, we're very accepting of that. And because of that, and as people know about me, because I probably ask too many questions at times if I'm just meeting you or learning about you, I am curious, is you can learn about lots of different people, their backgrounds, sexual orientations, why they got, and for me, I've never understood, for example, just why somebody would get a tattoo, just because there's nobody in my family that has tattoos. And I've learned a lot about just simple things like that.
So as a result of our conversations, you've gone out and started learning about other people inside the organization, everybody from somebody who has tattoos down to somebody who's maybe a different sexuality than your own, like that. Did I get it?
Yeah, exactly. And so you realize there's no, and one thing about allyship, there shouldn't be a stereotype, just because of your color of your skin. There's all sorts of quote unquote marginalized groups. And what has governed me and how I was brought up is it's ironic to me that we're all 99.9999% the same, yet we focus on this very small differences, and often for negative consequences and effects. And that always boggles my mind. And I think one of the reasons it boggles my mind is because my parents came from very different places, and they struggled to date and to get together. But then they also were struggling to raise 3 kids in an environment early on.
So they struggled to date and to get married. Just want to provide a little bit of context. Your mom's got red hair. She's got a bunch of sisters who also have red hair. She's from Boston, is that right?
Yeah, she's from the Boston area. So she's one of 9 redheads.
And your dad is from India.
My dad's dark skin, dark hair. Everybody in his family looks like him.
Yeah. Okay, we got the perfect picture now. We can see perhaps why that might be a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably a part of how does that color your definition of allyship?
So I understood the concept of privilege. For my dad to get married, he had to actually write Rome. He had to get permission to actually get married in a Catholic church. My mom was Catholic, my dad's Hindu, right? So that's one example of how
most people in this country, men, don't have to write Rome to get married. Got it.
And my dad, if we had a lot of work, my dad would say growing up, hey, you've got a roof over your head. There's a lot of kids in India that they're studying by candlelight right now outside. I think be careful what you complain about, So we were always informed of the other opportunities that we had versus, the world at large.
Which is a part of when we talk, Neil, in just a few minutes, we're going to get into some strategies or some ideas that we can offer to those who are listening in on how to become a better ally. I know that this experience of your life has really teed you up for at least one idea around surrounding yourself with people who are different from you. So we're going to get into that in just a moment. I want to come back to Kim and give her that. I know your audio got cut out, so please give us a little sense of, we've got about 15 minutes left. Give us a little sense of what you've learned already about allyship yourself. But to be clear again, you guys, these aren't just 3 people who are figureheads talking about allyship. And in addition to that, the people who helped to put this event together, they're not just behind the scenes putting things together. All of them have been engaging in conversations to strengthen their ability to become a better ally themselves, regardless of their background, regardless of their ethnicity or what have you. So please, Kim.
Thank you. So I guess I wanted to turn this back around to speak about allyship as it pertains to NEPC. This is my NEPC family. And I want to make sure everyone knows that I've seen NEPC grow for the last 15 years. From 2005 till now, I've been here. I've had my eyes open. I was given an opportunity by one of the first, I think the first Black female partner at NEPC. She, Doris Ewing, she hired me. She got me in the Detroit office with Paul Kinney. They both managed that office. Great. Paul just retired. And I want to make sure everyone understands that when I came into NEPC, I looked for people who look like me. I come from Detroit. Like I said, Black city, very segregated city. I don't know if everyone knows that. But I was educated in the suburbs. So I went to an all-girl Catholic school. I'm a Black Catholic. Whoa, that's new, right? So when I came into NEPC, first thing we do as a Black person, you look around, see who looks like you. And I remember walking through the office going, okay, I think I saw one consultant, and I remember thinking, okay, so I can do this job. I see someone who's doing the job, right? So then you look at the analysts and you look around and you're like, okay, well, Boston's different from Detroit. You don't see Asian people in Detroit, not really. So that was new. So I saw other faces and I thought, okay, well, if they're not all white, there's a space for me. And me being a woman coming from an all-girl high school, educated there, I was looking for the women as an example of who I can be, what office I can sit in, what chair I can go into, what room I'm invited into. And I remember having those thoughts about NEPC. And you know what I did learn? The people I work with, some of the greatest people I've ever met. And I also remember thinking about the allies that, I was thinking about the allies that I ran into. And I remember the examples of the managers, the consultants who had the analysts, do the hard work, because we do the hard work, and they gave them credit for it. They didn't just take their credit and run with it, but they extended it and gave the credit to them. And they made sure that the team knew she did the hard work, And I thought that was really, really important. And I was like, wow, the white guy didn't take all the credit. And I was like, that's pretty great. So, I mean, I want you to know that when I see NEPC and these conversations we're having right now, it's important for me to let everyone know that we're growing. We're not going to get it right all the time. The black kids aren't going to get it right. The white kids aren't going to get it right. Everyone else in the group, we're all working together as long as we have intent. And that's what I heard Brian say when I lost my audio. You're making an intention to treat, have your kids have this exposure to other people, other cultures. Your intention is what we want to see our allies have, that you are intending on making things better for people who don't look like you. And I think that if you open those doors, you give the floor, give the opportunity to others who don't look like you, you are being the best ally we could ever have. So I wanted to make sure I got that across. Sorry, Misty.
No, it's really powerful. I think I want to highlight something that I heard you say that I think is so incredibly important and powerful, which is I was looking for people like me in positions of authority. I was looking for people like me so that I could see that I too could do the thing that they are doing. And what's beautiful is that now people are looking to you, Kim, and to you, Shanae, and to you, Devin and Megan and Brian and Neil, to go, if they can do this, I could do this. But to focus specifically on you, Kim, the very thing that you want, that you were looking for, you are now creating. And I think that one picture I can see in my mind's eye of a younger you going, where do I fit? Which is why it's so very important that companies, that NEPC, strengthen the allyship, strengthen opportunities so that people of all different marginalized groups, look, by 2044, the minority of the United States will be the majority. Real data. By 2044, that's not very far away. The minority will be the majority. It is time right now to begin to help all of us to advance so that people of marginalized groups can continue to get more and more exposure and the company can continue to be strong. So I want to move into the next question here. And there are many, I have many questions and we have 9 minutes. So we're going to do this rapid fire answer. What does the word allyship mean to you? And I'm going to ask that you throw in a little extra around what does the word privilege mean to you? Neil, I'm going to ask you to go first, again, rapid fire, because there's some other really cool questions in here that we want to get into.
So what it means to me is help others achieve, basically.
Have you ever had somebody help you achieve?
I've had tons of people that have helped me achieve.
Do you have any particular story that you would want to share about that? I know I asked you to make this quick, so if it's not there, then just let me know. Nope, not.
I want not a quick story, so we'll pass it on to Kim or Brian.
You picked her. Come on, Kim, you're up next.
Well, I can definitely echo what Neil says. Allyship to me means that you use your privilege to help support someone who doesn't have it. I definitely could say that as an, you know, just opportunities, you know, when people open doors for you and you have that opportunity, they're being your ally. I think those are like experiences I've had throughout my whole life. I think people want to help people who want to be helped too. And I think that I've always made a, and there's a saying, when you ask for it, you don't ask, you don't get, and I think that I've kind of grown up with that kind of motto. And so I'm always the first one to ask. All they can do is say no. I tell my kids all they can do is say no. So
awesome. Brian.
Allyship for me is making sure that I'm always open to listen, that my door is open, or I'm there to, when I get the call, to make sure that I take an active approach, and whoever's calling me, if they're from a marginalized group, and doing everything I can to listen. And I think the most important thing is listening is not waiting for my turn to talk. It's listening and understanding, and really I'm there to understand where they're coming from, and when they're ready for me to talk, they'll tell me. It's not just waiting to ask questions, or being an ally is listening and understanding, seeking to understand.
So powerful. Listening is not just waiting for my turn to talk. Listening is actually hearing what they're saying. Powerful technique to support that is repeating back what you heard. So powerful. An idea around that for those who are listening in. I love that. Let's dive into the next question. I really want to get into, I'm going to give 2 questions at the same time. You get to choose which one you're going to answer. Kim, you're up first. Either I would love to hear if you've ever seen sort of allyship done wrong, gone wrong. If you've ever seen that, or the other question, completely different, just for fun, because this word is also loaded. I want to talk about tokenism. And what is it? Kim's like, I want to talk about tokenism too.
Well, allyship done wrong is tokenism. It's covert racism. It really is. It is.
Wait a minute, what's covert racism? Let's define that word, covert racism.
It's basically the, it's basically when you have the, you tell people I'm not racist, I have a black friend. So you can't be racist because you know someone who's black. That doesn't equate. That doesn't work. Covert racism is kind of like, that backhanded compliment. Oh, you're pretty for a black girl.
Gotcha.
I can't just be a pretty girl.
Gotcha.
Or I can't, why do you need to qualify it? I'm a woman. Just say it, So yeah, tokenism definitely is something that I think that, we all need to be conscious of. I think that, when you want to include women in a group and she sits in the corner and all the guys are at the table, that's tokenism. She doesn't have a place, but yet you can check her off the box. So, she, you were inclusive. No, it doesn't work that way. And I think,
go ahead.
And I think that it's those type of people who have good, they mean well, they mean well, they're saying the words, but their actions don't equate. That's tokenism, is when you are trying to use a marginalized person for window dressing, plain and simple. And that needs to be done. Like no one's got time for that.
You had this experience where you got sent to a conference and you're looking around going, okay, it's just
yeah.
And can I just ask you, like, what was that like for you to be? And it's probably happened more than once, yeah.
Well, you know what? It happened once, and after that, I kind of had to figure my way around it. But I had this overwhelming sense of I'm here because I fit the mold of the group that's here. And I thought, well, I'm not bringing anything to the table. No one's asking me questions. I'm just kind of here to check the box. And that was a feeling I'll never forget. You never forget when you are the token black girl or the token female or the token black person. I mean, I can use it in all kinds of ways. I can, you can use it as, the one mom in the group. Oh, they had to have a mom. I'm like, I'm more than a mom, more than a sister, more than a Black girl, I'm more than all those things. And I think that when people stop and look at people, just have a connection with me. I'm a human being. We can all get a lot further than this. I have talents, I have gifts, just like everyone else. I can bake you a mean cake. Ask anyone.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is that you want to be invited in because of your talents and skills, and then let the fact that you check a box be an added bonus. Neil,
Exactly.
have you had an experience around tokenism?
Pardon me?
Not tokenism, but I had an experience. It's, you know, similar. What we try to do with our kids around allyship is we brought our kids to see family in India. And, you know, for those people at NEPC, they'll remember because I was trying to get back from the offsite and didn't get back because of a delayed flight. But basically, we went for part of our trip to this part of India in Kerala, the southernmost state, to visit some beaches and a temple that's about 1,000 years old. And my kids are young kids at this time, between 4 and 9. And it's about 95 degrees outside. And we had them all in the right gear to visit a temple, which is longer pants or dresses or things like that. And I had been members of a temple in the Boston area. And so, and I'm Indian, and our kids are Indian. And so all these people are going in and out of the temple, and I wasn't allowed in, and my family wasn't allowed in. And bottom line, why we weren't allowed in is because we didn't look Hindu, you know? And so obviously I was not happy about that. I tried to explain, I brought out my passport. Here I am, Neil Naranjan Sheth, you know, and that they just say no. We actually bought an expensive carving back to Boston to give my dad, because he has like a little praying area in my parents' house. But what I explained to my kids was, hey, listen, most of the time, guys, you're white complexion and you're able to do things and you just assume you can do them. But now you experienced what other people have experienced. And that's a very good experience, you know, and I'm not saying it's right. And you are Indian and you should be allowed in this temple, but you should, when you speak to other people, you can say you've had this experience and maybe you can relate to them, right? And I think, in short, everybody, to be effective and understand, they need to be comfortable looking different than everybody else in a room and feeling that they can be effective. And it doesn't happen right away.
We are right at time. And so I'm gonna ask each one of us just a 30-second to sort of wrap us up. 30 seconds from each one of you guys. And I do see you, Rhett, in the chat box. I see that you'd like to chime in. Unfortunately, we're out of time, which is, I love that you've got some things that you want to share around tokenism. And I'm going to invite you to contact directly Kim and anybody else that's on this panel today and talk with them about tokenism. But I would like just 30 seconds from each one of you on what you are going to do and any ideas you have for others on what they can do to become a better ally inside of NEPC. And then I'm going to close up with just a really beautiful quote, and we'll close up after that. So 30 seconds. Brian, you're first.
I'm going to seek to be more proactive. A lot of the things I've done have been reactive. Someone called me and I answered the phone, or they came into my office and I had the conversation. Devin called me to participate in this. Those were all taking advantages of the opportunity I got in a reactive way. But what are the things I can do to be proactive? How can I go out and make a difference? And whether that's within my own team, seeking to understand other teams, you know, there's a lot of different ways I can do it. I need to figure out what those ways are, but it's time to be proactive and not just wait for the call to help, but to go help.
This is my double high fives to you. Kim, you're up next.
I think that for me, I'm going to continue to work with the Berg. Hope everyone can join us tomorrow. Through that committee, I will be definitely finding ways to be available and a voice for people who want to be heard here at NEPC or feel like they can't go to other areas for, to kind of talk right through. And by the way, I want to mention one more thing really quickly. Shanae, I'm going to call you out because you have been doing an awesome job as an ally for other Black women at NEPC. You have been doing your Black Girl Coffee Chat, and I want to say thank you so much for that. That is a beautiful thing, and I want to be you. So, Shanae, guys.
That in and of itself is a high five to you. Neil, close us out.
Sure. In addition to talking, one of the things that I'd like to do is to, be involved either as a participant or other in something outside of work or whatever, whether that's community service or that's something cultural heritage. It could just go be to a restaurant or something else around something that I'm not familiar with. And there's a lot of people at the firm who I could interact with to learn about their cultures or their backgrounds in a more fun and social way.
So powerful, each one of you guys. I'm giving you like a massive high fives, and I'm so impressed by each one of you. So thankful to have been a part of this. I will say many of you who are listening in have put into the chat box that you'd like to share some of your own ideas around this. I want to welcome you to send an email to, we'll say Devin or anybody on the group. Anybody that you've seen here today, if you have ideas around how to strengthen your own allyship or how NEPC can strengthen allyship within the organization, please submit your ideas. I will say also that Charles Evan Hughes said, when we lose the right to be different, we lose the right to be free. And what NEPC and each one of us are here doing is ensuring that we stay free. And I'll close out with Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Nothing beautiful in the end comes without a measure of some pain, some frustration, some suffering. This is the nature of things. This is how our universe has been made up. And this is the very result of a willingness to lean into that discomfort. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for having me. What a gift it has been to be a part of this conversation, of which there will be many more, no question.
Misty, thank you so much for leading this discussion with us. And I thank you, Megan and Shanae, for being my co-chairs for this event. And especially thanks to Brian, Neil, and Kim. Being vulnerable and being out there with your experiences and your stories is the way that the community at NEPC is going to be inspired to become more inclusive and to welcome everybody in. So I'm going to close this as people are leaving. I'm going to launch the sort of closing poll for our session. If you're free to leave as soon as you answer it. And we welcome you back to all of our future events. So thanks so much for coming, and we'll see you the next time.